I believe, we've had Joe Biden say no restrictions at all. I'm like, dude, look, man, there are serious questions about government overreach. But if my choices have really become ban the practice outright or allow people in Colorado to kill a baby seconds before birth, yeah, I'm going with banning abortion. I'm sorry, that's just the case. Matt kept asking me. He said, what if the baby was born in a vegetative state? And I said, and? He's like, would you think you could kill it then? Like, no, you can't. He's like, you would keep the baby. Yes. It's almost as if it's shocking to him. This was the Democrat position all throughout my life. Now, the left wants to argue, I must be a conservative because I'm a regular person from 2012. Yo, how did you go in 10 years from safe, legal, rare to no restriction up to the point of birth abortion at the woman's discretion? Now, you can come at me all day and night and say, it doesn't happen, Tim. It doesn't happen. 91% of abortions happen in the first 12 weeks. I don't disagree with that. I'm asking you why Democrats want to make it illegal and why I should support their efforts to do so. I don't care if it's 91% of abortions. If you want to make a bill that says within 12 weeks, but after viability none, okay, then great. I would say that there we go. Let's enact that one. That's not the bill you proposed. So they come to me and say, why aren't you defending pro-choice, Tim? Because you're trying to allow people to make it legal for abortions to be performed at 9 months. I just think that makes no sense. If the woman's life is at risk, why destroy the baby? Why kill it? If you have to remove it, will you live? So it's like after viability. Now they're going to come in and say, Tim, we're talking about 6 months, 7 months, and the woman's got some serious issue, and they have to terminate the pregnancy. And I'm like, the woman is viable. And the law a liberal, a now moderate. Elon was left-wing, voting for Democrats, as was I. And today, we probably have very similar politics. Would love to have you on the show. So another show, come on, buddy. Let's have you on. Check this out.
So I'm looking for a real
Let me lower the volume on it. It's really loud. The value of the minivan, a pickup, sedan, or whatever it is you drive, probably appreciated significantly last year. Take care of your hard-earned investment. More of your money by buying the auto parts you need to maintain or repair your vehicle at RockAuto.com. RockAuto.com only sells auto parts and related things, and they have been doing it for over 20 years. Their unique catalog includes photos, specs, installation tips, and makes it easy to choose the correct parts for your vehicle. They not only have the auto parts you need, but will give you a selection of trusted name brands to choose from. You can pick brakes that match how you use your vehicle for towing, racing, or just commuting to work. You get suspension, exhaust, air conditioning, and other kits that provide all the parts you need for a successful repair. You won't get halfway through replacing a belt and discover you need another tension or push. RockAuto.com has lots of parts that you might expect would only be available at car dealerships, if they are available at all. Parts like the fan inside your seat that cools your tush. RockAuto.com prices are always reliably low. That means they do not change prices based on what the market will bear like many airlines and marketplace sites do. Their prices make it affordable for customers to keep their daily drivers and classics safely on the road. Go to rockauto.com for your auto parts and write Tim Pool in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know I sent you.
recently the comments on anything super is above 95%. That's what they're thinking. Does anyone have that experience? As a bridge, I might be silly, you know.
Elon responds to audience laughter says it all. They organically erupt in laughter at the idea that Twitter is above 95% of real users. See, they're manipulated accounts for sock puppets, dirty game. Elon knows it. But let's wrap this together. Elon sees what we see. The narrative is breaking. The lies are breaking. It ain't working anymore. The left has started saying, these people can't tell you how basic functions of government work. You don't open it all and entertain some political drama in this conversation. In talking with Ned Binder last night, I think a lot was revealed to me. And I've become a bit, I've been saying for a while, there's no point in talking to people on the left. Like, there's no point in Twitter because I think conversations are good. And they have fun shows. But I don't think you're going to convince them of anything. Posting hot takes on Twitter is easy. But, people like you and me are here on Weber. Something interesting happened with that kind of show. He had no substance behind his ideas. Now, I had to put him on the spot because it could just be, look, I am a professional with a large company that's rapidly expanding. I have a following on Twitter and, 5 or so million subscribers above on YouTube. And he's got a much more channel. So maybe it's just there's a gap in I'm not trying to be mean, but like skill, knowledge, experience. We're about the same age. Matt, I believe, has been living in space longer than I have. There is a gap. I asked him after the show, who do you think is the remember numbers I really like? I said, I bet you the question. Because we still talk a little bit after the show, obviously. And I said, you don't know what Brett Moore's like with your ideas. You don't know how the money supply is. You don't know how taxation works for corporations or for the wealthy. You don't know how the wealthy generate revenue. Yet you are adamant that your policy positions are correct. How is that? He had been saying to me that he believed that we should just have the government print money to pay off everyone's debt for colleges. And I said, but why? I said, why tax the lower income earners and pay the higher income earners tax? And he said, it doesn't matter. The government's just printing money to hold on anyway. Nobody's owed that money. I'm like, well, yeah, ultimately the market is money. It's inflationary pressure to the least. The money has to come from somewhere. bit smarter than some people, but I certainly don't think I'm all that smart. I think perseverance is the issue, and my drive. I also think I have insane amounts of energy for some reason. Don't ask me why. I don't sleep. I don't know, man. I've been accused of being on Adderall. Not true. I'm basically straight edge. Eat healthy, no drinking, no smoking, no tattoos. But anyway, I digress. My point here is, I'm having conversations with people about political issues they don't even know the basics of. They accuse me of not knowing the basics, but it's like, how do you talk to someone who doesn't know? The abortion question is a good example. For instance, on Twitter, when I said, I made a tweet about abortion, a woman going to get an abortion, and then she has the baby on accident, what do? The left doesn't know what the word abortion means. The legal definition, or at least the CDC's definition, involves the death of the baby. Colorado's legal definition says an attempt that is not intending to increase probability of live birth, meaning death is either intended or expected. They don't know that. So when I said if a woman is, 8 months pregnant and the baby has to be, terminated for health reasons, people said, you're an idiot, it's not an abortion, it's induced labor. No, those are different things. But they don't know this. So what I was talking to Matt about, I said, it would be like you're telling me that cars don't need gas because the gas is just there. Just fill up the tank with gas. And I said, where do we get the gas from? They said, what do you mean? You just put the gas in the tank. Like, you can just do it. And I'm like, the gas has to come from somewhere. The resources, the food, it has to come from somewhere. Someone has to make it. He doesn't get it. I said, this is my question to the left. How can you advocate for an action when you don't know the ramifications of that action? It's like someone, imagine you go to a mechanic shop and you have no idea how to put together a transmission. And as the mechanic is working, you say, I think you should put that screw on top. And he goes, the screw doesn't go on top. And they're like, no, I want it there. You know what? We all agree, do it. And he's like, you're going to ruin the car. I need to use this car too. I'm not going to do that. And then they'll start complaining. Why won't you listen to the majority? This is democracy. We want the screw. And you're like, that's going to destroy the machine. I don't think I have all the answers. I have a lot of questions and concerns, which is why I don't staunchly advocate for a lot of policy. On issues of freedom, pretty adamant. On issues of life and stuff, I'm like, I don't know, man. A lot of people are like, Tim, your advocacy for pro-choice, pre-viability means people are going to lie. If you advocate for rape and incest provisions, they're going to lie. And I'm like, you're right, they will. I don't know what to do. I don't know if there are clean answers. So for me, I'm like, I don't know, should we do something? If all signs point to catastrophe, I'd say no. If I have insufficient information, I'll say, I honestly don't know. So, he asked me the other night about Terry Shop. I said, what do you think about Terry Shop? I was like, oh, that's something. No, I don't know enough about it. I'm not just going to have it. It's in play. And it turns out, let's put it this. There was no sign he had on. The husband claimed she didn't want to live. The parents claimed she did. And I said, that's the kid. The parents had nothing. Clear cut, easy question. There was a lawsuit. I can respect the lawsuit. In this instance, we're dealing with someone who was involved in severe surgery, a TBI, or disease that resulted in a loss of function. And there's questions over what they want. Do not resuscitate, or device. The next of kin is the husband, who said he does not want to be resuscitated. I respect the next of kin. That's what I would want for myself. I would want for my parents. I would want my next of kin. Spouse, He then said, okay, well, what about a baby? And I'm like, different situation. A baby, there's vegetation, experience, and loss of the life of life. So this is my point. The conversation that the source mostly stayed out was a leftist calling a pro-choice liberal, me, right-wing or conservative, because he doesn't realize he's so far gone on towards the left that he thinks I'm right-wing. He's like, why aren't you advocating for pro-choice? I was like, Seamus and I argue this on like every show, especially the past few weeks. I straight up told Seamus that if it were me as a woman who got pregnant through a rape in the States that he was, I would kill myself. I would lose my mind. There's just a lot of things that we were on life. And these leftists are so far gone, they call that a conservative opinion. person was sickly, bleeding, and collapsed in front of you, let him go. No, you bring him in to save his life. The arguments make no sense. I don't want to keep rehashing the same argument, so I'll leave it there. Elon Musk hit the nail on the head with the hammer. Now, depending on what happens with Twitter, we'll see. But the issue is, when the left claims that he's wrong about Twitter, it's because they're in a bubble. Next segment's coming up at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/Tidcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all. Project Veritas has exposed a lot in their storied careers. But we have a new story that I think may be one of the most insightful and impactful political exposés we've seen in a long time. An excellent piece of journalism from Project Veritas, where a senior engineer basically exposes the company as Commie AF, is what he says. He actually swears, Commie as F. He says that the people there don't believe in free speech, that people on the right get banned because the left won't tolerate the right, but the right will tolerate the left, so the left doesn't get banned, which is basically what I've said for a long time. But let me just say, as we get into this story and talk about how this guy says he works 4 hours per week. I wonder how much money they paid, 6 figures. These people, wow, running the company into the ground. It all makes sense now. But let me just say there's a meme. And I can't remember who posted it, so forgive me for not giving you proper attribution. They said, if you're an engineer at Twitter and a hot woman is very into you, it's James O'Keefe. I thought that was great. Like, James O'Keefe in a wig, like, sitting down, tell me about the work you do. And they're like, haha. Okay, so basically what happens with Project Veritas often, I believe, is that they use Twitter, they use Tinder. So they'll get young, attractive women to go on Tinder and swipe, and then they'll find people who are like an engineer at Twitter, they'll go out for drinks, and they will record the candid conversations. I think it's fantastic. This is Siru Murugesan, senior engineer at Twitter. Seems like a good dude. He seems like a good dude who's a cog in a machine. He points out that he's okay with Elon Musk buying Twitter, and he breaks this stuff down. I respect this. I appreciate it. I wish many more people like this would step forward and expose the malfeasance and the manipulation. They don't. So I can't give Siru credit for speaking out when he was caught on candid camera, when he was on undercover camera. I wish he would just come out and be like, hey guys, here's what is happening at this company that confirms a lot of what you're saying. Here's a tweet from me. Breaking from Project Veritas. Twitter employee confirms bias at Twitter. Seems I was right. Because conservatives tolerate and leftists won't tolerate the right, Twitter opts to censor the right as balance. Now that is a business component of censorship. However, as we can see from the statements made by Siru, companies actually just Commie AF. Now here's one of my favorite parts I want to highlight right away before we jump into the actual write-up on this. Take a look. Jim Hansen says the best part was work ethic when he said, quote, I work about 4 hours a week. Quote, if you're not feeling it, you can just take a couple days off. Elon can come in, empty about 2/3 of the building, and still have it running better without hiring anyone. True facts. People, you gotta understand this, okay? We'll read through the breakdown here, but the Daily Mail report, giving us some quotes and all that stuff. And I just want to stress, you need to understand that at these companies in New York, in California, the amount of money people get paid for the amount of work they do would make you vomit into your mouth. I told the story before. Walking into Vice.com, their offices, and seeing nobody. It's actually a funny story once where, like, nobody showed up on a day like some important business guy was supposed to be there, and so, you know, Shane, the CEO, is like, come right this way, sir, let me show you my amazing newsroom, and there's nobody working. That's what happens. And then they're all angry, like, why is nobody at the office? It's like, this is the culture you built. Paying people $50,000 a year to write listicles about, you know, various celebrities' junk is the go-to example. And what do you think these people are going to do? That's why I love the entitlement from urban millennial types. I would be there every day. I would show up and I would be like, I'm going to be doing my research, I'm going to be sitting here, I'm going to be talking with people, I'm going to be trying to figure out things to do. And you know what? They could have listened to me. Well, good for them. Disney wrote down their investment in Vice to zero. But let's talk about Twitter. It's not just these media companies. People in big cities don't do work. They don't do work. Some people do. The janitors certainly do. The plumbers do. The tradesmen do. Managers, many of them. But so many of the people who are supposed to be doing core functions just don't do anything. This is incredible. A senior engineer who said he worked 4 hours per week. How much you want to bet he's getting paid? Like 150, 200. Twitter does not believe in free speech. Undercover Project Veritas recording reveals Twitter engineers saying platform censors the right but not the left. Everyone who works there is Commie AF, meaning as F, as Fook. I can say that around. And they hate Elon Musk. Commie as Fudge. Cyril Murugesan was recorded saying the company culture is extremely far left, where workers are Commie AF and they hate Elon Musk's takeover. In a shockingly frank conversation filmed over several encounters, he said the firm does not believe in free speech and even started to turn him left-wing when he joined. His comments come amid a firestorm at Twitter as staff fear they will face the axe or be stopped from censoring certain content when the Tesla billionaire takes over. Now, there's another story here I'll get into later. It's a bigger story. We don't even know if this deal is going to go through now. Let's continue. Musk has vowed to return the platform to a safe space for users to post what they want, as well as defeat the spam bots and authenticate users. Meanwhile, he fueled speculation he could be seeking to negotiate paying less for the social media giant, as he told the Miami conference an agreement at a lower price wouldn't be out of the question. So here we have this, one of the statements from Cyril. The left will be like, no, I'm not going to tolerate it. I need it censored or else I'm not going to be on the platform. So everyone on the right wing will be like, bro, it's okay to say it, just tolerate it. And the left will be like, no. So what happens? This is what I've pointed out so many times. You have two groups of people. The conservatives and libertarian moderates are like, we're for free speech. Let the leftists have their speech. The left says, I don't want any of them to have speech. Ban them all. So Twitter will be like, if we don't ban the left, the right doesn't care. If we don't ban the right, the left will leave. So let's ban a little bit of the people on the right and try and balance. Can I just point out how bad I feel for this guy, Cyril Murugesan? Because what you got to understand, James, my good sir James O'Keefe, as much as this is tremendously important, there is some kind of teen rom-com drama, high school drama storyline here. And I would love to make the short film. And it's about an engineer at Twitter who meets a beautiful young woman on Tinder. And they're talking, and he's explaining himself and everything. And then it's revealed she was a journalist for Project Veritas the whole time. And he calls her and says, I can't believe you would do this to me. And then she goes, Cyril, wait. Well, look, when I started this, it was just about the expose for Project Veritas, but it became something more. Please, no. And then they fall in love and get married. I mean, you've seen movies like that, right? Where it's like the high school jock dates the ugly girl. And what is this trope? He dates the ugly girl because it's like a bet. But then he ends up falling for her, and she takes her glasses off and spins her hair, and she was beautiful the whole time. I feel bad for this guy. I really do. Cyril, man, you seem like a good dude. I appreciate that you're willing to speak candidly about this stuff. And it really does kind of just, it's such an emotional heartstring pull when you realize, like, this dude was out on a date, and he's, like, trying to find love, you know? And that's true for so many of the people that Veritas captures in these exposés. I think it's a clever tactic from Veritas, and I think undercover journalism, I think the strategies they use, I think they're valid. But this guy, you know, when you get somebody who's being exposed, and they genuinely have issues with these things and are speaking out against them, I would just say you need to be more vocal in the public space. That being said, most people probably don't know how to do it and don't know a whole lot about it. I can't imagine someone like Cyril wakes up and he's like, man, what's happening at Twitter is so bad, I need to find a journalist. I think they probably are just like, I don't know, I'm just doing my thing, I guess. And then they go on Tinder, and there's a cute young thing who's like, let's talk, asking all these questions and smiling and getting all excited. And this is what happens. Lost love, lost love. But I think maybe we should produce that short film where the Veritas journalist is like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't care about the expose. I love you, and then they elope, and that would be funny. Anyway, he was gonna say they hate it. Oh my God! At least I'm at least okay with it. Talking about the Elon Musk takeover. Elon believes in free speech. He says, so on the right, it's true, there is bias. Murugesan was filmed by a female Veritas journalist spilling the beans on the tech giant's left-wing agenda, including the censor right-wing posts. Twitter does not believe in free speech. They hate it.
Become a gambling addict. Admitting I was powerless to solve my problem, that opened the doors. I thought I was beyond repair until I called 1-800-GAMBLER and was provided life-changing resources and referrals at zero cost to me.
For no-cost gambling addiction counseling, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text SUPPORT to 53342. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
The Elon takeover day. Asked how his coworkers responded, they're like, this would be my last day if this happens. Murugesan said Twitter's office politics were so left-leaning they shaped his own views and changed him. Like, I started working at Twitter and became left, he said. I think it's just like the environment. Like, you're there and you become this common. So that right-wing control censor ideologically does not make sense, because we're actually censoring the right and not the left. So I wrote a right-wing video that I wrote on Facebook. Here's the crazy thing about it. He says we're not running a company like capitalists, we're like socialists. We don't jump for work, we get paid, we can dip out. Elon Musk could come in and purge the staff and Twitter would run just fine. That's the amazing thing. They're subsidizing the worksman company. I'll say it again. I think Twitter is lying about their numbers. Elon Musk thinks they're lying about their numbers. I think they're lying about their numbers to sell ads, ripping people off so they can pump money in the pockets of people who don't do work. That sounds like institutional capture, right? Socialists take over a company, lie, and extract resources from the system to fund people who share their worldview and don't do work. It's amazing. It's amazing. He says employees were worried for their jobs because his companies run differently to Twitter's socialist workplace. Absolutely incredible. I'm going to deviate here from this story because I think this confirms a lot of what we know. I want to talk to you about ramifications of the censorship, and I want to address a little bit of, we had a show last night where we had some political debate. Talk to you about the problems of the psychotic left-wing culture that has taken over these platforms. And I'll give you a really good example with a tweet of mine that these two things resulted in me trending on Twitter. The Project Veritas story, because I posted the video, it's breaking news, thought it was relevant, and it's got like 3 million views or something. Wow, crazy, like 12,000 retweets. I also posted something about abortion, and it ended up going viral and getting ratioed by the left, which is fantastic. I don't know. It's a weird Twitter culture where they're like, you got ratioed, bro, and I'm like, thank you for engaging with my post. Replies are a function. Ratioing typically means more people are commenting than sharing the post, and it's not always bad, but the left took issue with my tweet. And so it's kind of a hard segue, but I did want to make sure I addressed some of what we talked about last night, because I think this does kind of come together in a certain way. Let me explain. We know that Twitter is biased. We know that Twitter bans people on the right. We know that Twitter creates filter bubbles, that people will only see content, they'll only see people they already agree with, and they don't understand basic concepts. When you see people like this, how they respond to my posts, because they don't know the definitions of words, Twitter employs people like that to enforce these ideas. Here's my point. This guy at Twitter who became left, and he's censoring everything, and the people there are all left. They have no idea what they're talking about. It is a cult where, let me explain what I mean by cult. They agree with each other because they agree with each other. They don't have logical, principled stances behind what they're saying, and they often can't give you detailed answers outside of tropes. So this guy ends up working for a company like Twitter. He says he's becoming left. They then start banning people who are able to have conversations. And he's moderate, slightly left, for the most part, centrist libertarian type. He'll be called right-wing does not result in a live birth. So you have a baby that's viable, and you perform a procedure that results not in a live birth. There's only one, that means one thing. A baby that could have lived outside the womb is terminated. Its life is over. Post-viability means up unto the point of birth. So I, as someone who has always been, effectively in the Roe v. Wade camp of like, at a woman's discretion within a certain time frame, but viability questions end up being raised. Why is it that none of these people are allowed to understand any of these basic concepts, and they just say things that seem to make no sense? Like, did you read it, Tim? It says the health of your mother. What does that have to do with the baby? But listen, when I was talking with Matt on the show yesterday, he just kept saying it's the woman's choice, and Seamus and I disagree on the issue. We're trying to understand it, and it did seem like the admin just kept saying it's the woman's choice because the woman is more like we're not. That it's the woman's body, it's the woman's choice. It's like, okay, but when the baby is viable, and the mother's health is at risk, and they have to end the pregnancy for the life of the mother, why kill the baby? The answer because what I end up seeing with all of these responses on Twitter is the inmates don't understand the concept of abortion, don't know the CDC definition of it, don't know these things really happen, and I think there's some percent cases. And then I'll give you another example. 91% of abortions happen within the first 12 weeks. That's data we pulled up on the show. And if that's the case, why are they upset with abortions being banned at 16? Now, I ask these questions, but the responses I get from people on the left are that they don't understand what abortion means. They don't understand the law the Democrats tried to pass. Matt, on the show, didn't read the bill. He didn't know they were trying to do this, and he kept saying, because the woman's health is in danger. And I'm like, so you have to remove the baby, right? Woman's health is at risk, you have to remove the baby, right? Okay, why kill it? You could perform a C-section and take the baby out, baby's alive, right? Okay, abortion means not a live birth. That is to say, they would not prohibit a procedure that would kill the baby if the mother's health is at risk. That doesn't make sense. It says the continuation of the pregnancy would pose a risk. It literally says you can terminate the baby's life if the continuation of the pregnancy poses a risk to the patient's life or health. Why terminate the baby when you could terminate the pregnancy and save the baby? Now, if I can't get an answer on that, and these people don't know, and they're running the rules for Twitter and censoring people, what do you think happens when you give a bunch of 12-year-olds access to your bank account? What happens when you give 12-year-olds an iPad and it's linked to your credit card? They start buying up all the little widgets in their dumb video game because they don't know how it works. This is the point. These people, I find, don't know the basic definitions of words or the legal arguments. And I mean, another example is, and with all due respect to Matt, I appreciate him coming on the show. We're definitely going to have him back on the show again. I disagree with him, and I take issue with his understanding of these provisions. But he said when it came to Twitter's policies on misgendering, conservatives are denying the existence of trans people. That doesn't mean anything. It conveys no idea. He couldn't even articulate what he meant by it, other than if you don't use someone's pronouns, you're basically saying they don't exist, which just doesn't make any sense. It was just a platitude, a leftist talking point that doesn't represent an idea. Of course trans people exist. I think absolutely Ben Shapiro knows trans people exist. I'm pretty sure Ben Shapiro is friends with many trans people. I think he just doesn't agree with using someone's pronouns by force, and he doesn't agree with gender transitioning. That doesn't mean he thinks they're not real people. So what is the idea they're trying to convey? I honestly have no idea. I don't think there is an idea behind it. I don't think there is substance. These are the people who are running the rules. These are the people who are influencing. These are children who have not thought out their core positions, who don't know the definitions of words like abortion in the legal argument, so they're not even conveying any ideas. They are emotional, reactive, and they will ban you from these platforms and these conversations while giving these high salaries to employees who don't do any work. This is a corruption, and I'll tell you, man, the system can't sustain itself. Elon Musk maybe will come in. We've got some developments on that, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. The deal might not even go through, but let me wrap these points together. What I'm starting to see is your political position isn't as relevant as whether you adhere to the cult or not. My political positions can be overwhelmingly left-leaning, but I can articulate the thoughts and have a conversation on it, and for the most part, the left can't. Not every single person, but it's like,
I don't know what
if they don't know what abortion means, if they didn't actually read the bill Democrats tried to pass, if they didn't read what Joe Manchin said, they have no idea what they're talking about. Why are they making rules on these platforms and banning those who do? And it's a really great example when you look at Hunter Biden's laptop story. The insanity and the inability of these people to comprehend basic concepts results in them saying it's Russian disinformation. And they ban it based on emotional, tribal reasons. And it's insane. I think I should probably refresh this. I think I have more retweets than that, don't I? If I refresh this. I think it's way more, but for some reason, there's like Twitter complains different retweets. I have way more responses from the video. It's fairly. From last night, it may be frustrating. I certainly don't think I have all the answers, and there's probably some points that I made that were bad because I don't think I'm a genius or anything like that. I just know stuff. I've read stuff. So like, what is it? One of the things I asked Matt after the show, I was like, do you know what an S corp is? And he's like, no. I'm like, do you know what a C corp is? He's like, no, I don't know. Do you know what an LLC is? No. Have you ever tried to form a corporation? No. If you don't know any of these things, how can you advocate for policies to change these things? That's something I genuinely don't understand. I would never go to someone who's a plumber and be like, let me tell you how to plumb. I wouldn't go to a trucker and say, let me tell you how to truck. When it comes to on things that I've read and researched, when it comes to positions on things like, I was asked about Terry Schiavo, I was like, I don't know anything about it. I certainly think there's probably areas where I'm wrong and have advocated for things. I'm saying for the most part, I try to avoid saying we should do a thing unless I know what the ramifications are going to be. I certainly know the ramifications of Twitter as a free speech platform, and I think even Elon Musk doesn't get it. But anyway, I digress. Excellent work from Project Veritas, confirming all of this stuff. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then. The Black Lives Matter funding scandals just keep on piling up. The Associated Press has got its hands on a 990 filing from Black Lives Matter, and there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, like, why is it that the family and friends of those associated with Black Lives Matter, the organization, were receiving such large payouts, large salaries, buying mansions, having parties? Was all of this necessary? My friends, we're going to dive into the world of the Black Lives Matter nonprofit. I'm going to show you how much money they were getting paid and the lives they were leading. And I want to tell you, it's all above board. That is to say, it appears nothing wrong was done. Now, you may not like how nonprofits function. You may not like how BLM is taking this money and how Patrisse Cullors is buying houses, buying a $6 million mansion, having parties in it, paying, her brother, I think she's paid, was her brother's company, or she hired her brother, and then contracts out to companies that are associated with her friends and family to the tune of nearly $1 million in some instances. And I can tell you, it's probably all legal. And the bigger issue here, too, is while we may take issue with how they're using this money, do you think anybody who gave BLM money cares? Maybe some. But I see these headlines. We've got Fox News, BLM co-founder Patrisse Cullors has group flooded with white guilt money. Okay. All right. I understand why we'll take issue with people giving them money and them using it to lead lavish, wealthy lives. Well, still, if guilty white people want to give up their money to these particular individuals to live wealthy, lavish lives, I don't know what you say to that. I don't know what you say. Because this is what nonprofits do. This is what nonprofits do. Patrice Cullors admits using $6 million California mansion for parties. And paying exorbitant salaries. I want to dive into the world of nonprofits and tell you why I left them. I didn't work for nonprofits all too long. It was over the span of a couple of years. I'd been working in fundraising and marketing efforts. And this is par for the course, baby. Here's the story. Let's talk about BLM using their money and the scandals that are erupting. The Daily Mail says Patrice Cullors' brother is one of the two highest paid staffers at Black Lives Matter and responsible for handling security at the group's controversial $6 million LA mansion. They say Black Lives Matter co-founder Patrice Cullors' brother is one of the two highest salaries at the organization for being head of the security team. The former leader had said previously that her sister, mother, and brother were employed at the Black Lives Matter Foundation. But new financial filings last week revealed Paul Cullors is paid more than dozens of other employees at the severely scrutinized organization. Although the May filing, first reported by the Examiner, does not reveal the exact amount Paul Cullors is paid yearly, it does state he is one of the two highest compensated employees. Oh, wow. I had the AP story, but forgive me, Washington Examiner, it appears that you had the story first. The organization will be required to disclose what employees it paid upwards of $100,000 in its 990 financial disclosure filing. News that Patrice Cullors' brother receives the greatest compensation at BLM comes on the heels of mounting criticism toward the doomed ex-leader of the organization. Well, quote, "While my brother is the head of security, my mom and sister did work at the property. There are also dozens of people who work in the organization that is black folks and are doing amazing work." After her resignation in May 2021, it's been revealed that BLM purchased a $6 million lavish home in Los Angeles with charitable donations. Patrice Cullors has also come under fire for receiving a $120,000 payment in consulting fees. Ah, so brilliant. Cullors has repeatedly denied claims she took money from BLM for personal matters, and has reiterated that all the purchases and transactions, including the lavish 6,500 square foot studio property home, were legitimate. Quote, "The idea that the foundation received millions of dollars and then I hid those dollars in my bank account is absolutely false," Cullors said, calling those claims a false narrative. Well, I am particularly well positioned to explain to you the wonderful world of nonprofits without making any accusations towards Patrice Cullors or friends or family, because it may all be on the level. I'd like to point out a few things real quick and then talk to you about how nonprofits work. Patrice Cullors says the idea that she took the money into her bank account is absurd. The foundation relies on consultants from the Associated Press. They say the foundation has relied on a small grouping of consultants, some of whom have close ties to the founders and other BLM organizers. For example, the tax filing shows the foundation paid nearly $970,000 to Trap Heels LLC, a company founded by Damon Turner, who fathered a child with Cullors. The company was hired to produce live events and produce other creative services, Bowers said. Okay, we got another one. The foundation paid more than $840,000 to Cullors Protection LLC, a security firm run by Paul Cullors, Patrice's brother, according to the tax filing. Because the BLM movement is known for vehemently protesting law enforcement organizations, the foundation felt its protection could not be entrusted to former police professionals who typically run security firms, said Bowers, adding, the foundation sought bids for other security contractors. $970,000 to Trap Heels LLC. What does that mean? I'm going to come out and defend. I'm going to defend the Black Lives Matter organization here. $970,000 may be over the span of a year. Black Lives Matter may have been spending, $80 or so thousand per month on events. That's normal. Now I don't know for sure. It may not be the case. It looks like we actually have a listed family member. So I've got private records. I don't want to pull up, but I have them on a separate screen. The $840,000 went to Cullors Protection LLC. So that seems to be the case. I want to say, it seems like that's on the level. Now, a lot of people are coming out and claiming like this is egregious and bad. No, we'll talk about what's bad, and I'll talk about the dirty games. But let's talk about what this means, so I can help you better understand. Look, I'm not a fan of the Black Lives Matter organization. I think their ideals are bad. I think we can see them using parties. They did use the stuff for personal issues. But let's be correct right now. $840,000 to a private security firm. That is actually really low. No joke. That is very little money for security for Black Lives Matter. Now, conflict of interest because they're paying money to their friends and family. Oh, you betcha. See, I wouldn't do that to this degree. But also, I have family who works for my company too. I have a couple family members who work here. Granted, I'm not a nonprofit. I don't see this as being the biggest scandal in the world, especially when, you know, I can give you some insights into security. Do you want to know how much it would cost for a full security detail? This is going to blow your mind. Between $3 and $5 million for the year for a full security detail. If you want a single, for a company, they're barely spending any money on security. I would estimate that $840,000 in security, if they really are hiring security, because I mean maybe they're doing nefarious things behind the scenes. They're looking at maybe, let's see, in a single day, if they want workday security, we're looking at 5 security guards, and not even 24 hours. If they were going to do 24-hour detail, this would mean they had 2 guards for their property at all time. Makes sense, right? Just 2 guards, though. 2. So what, you got one guy at the gate, one guy at the door? Hey, look, man, again, not a fan of how their ideologies or the things they do. Security ain't one of these issues. $970,000 to events. Again, I'm going to come out. I'll defend them. Apparently, they had, let me see if I can find it here in the Daily Mail, $150,000 for a November 2020 live stream of election night. Well, that's a lot of money. Now I have questions. So let me try and just slow down for a moment and explain. I've seen how nonprofits work. I think they're dirty. I think the security costs they paid are low relative to what I know about security. $150K for a live stream event. Here's what's happening. They've got money and they just want to spend it. That's the only reason you'd spend $150K on a live stream. No, I'm serious. So if you need cameras and a computer, let me break it down for you. How many cameras do you need? 2 or 3? Okay. You can get those for $800 to $1,000. Good 4K cameras that can live stream. So there's 3. A computer, $3,000 that can handle a live stream. Internet, well, depending on what kind of internet you're working with, it may only be a couple $100 per month, especially in a major market with massive infrastructure like LA. So we're looking at a live stream event. Let's just round up and say 5K. Staffing issues. All right, let's say you're going to pay your engineers $500 or $1,000 for the night. How do you get to $150,000? That's the issue I have. I want to point out, it may also include set design, which can be expensive, but $150,000 seems strange. Seems really strange because, look, these are huge numbers. You know, we're doing so much behind the scenes in terms of production. Music videos, movies, films. That number doesn't make sense. So I got questions. I do. Let's talk about, look what they've built. What are they doing with all this? Why do they have a dual property $6 million mansion, right? Two houses. Why do they have this big set? What are they doing? Why did they get an in-ground pool? Why buy this? If they're looking to produce content, why not buy in a more industrial setting like any other organization would do? I don't trust them. I think they're bad people. I think they're manipulators. I think they're relishing in money from white guilt, and they're living like kings off of America's white guilt. I think this is an ailment that our society is hurting, and these people are effectively leeching off of it. Now, that being said,
I never chose to become a gambling addict, but what I did choose was to get help from a professional counselor. Admitting I was powerless to solve my problem, that opened the doors. I thought I was beyond repair, until I called 1-800-GAMBLER and was provided life-changing resources and referrals at zero cost to me.
For no-cost gambling addiction counseling, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text SUPPORT to 53342. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
if people want to give money to Black Lives Matter, they're going to. After this news comes out, I doubt you will find a large portion of those who gave being upset about any of this. In fact, they probably don't even know it happened, which is why the news reporting is important. Let's talk about the amount of money they're spending. So let me just reiterate this point. It's possible the money they're spending is on the level in terms of security and infrastructure and doing live streams and things like that. I think it's a little exorbitant on the live stream end. I don't think they needed the mansion. But are they allowed to do it? It's their money. It was donated to them, right? Black Lives Matter co-founder Patrisse Cullors said the organization is awash with white guilt money. Cullors made the comment in an MSNBC podcast posted Monday afternoon in response to a question from host Tremaine Lee, who had asked if the organization's tsunami of flooding, what does that mean, was shocking, and if they had guardrails in place to ensure its cash was being directed in the proper ways. Yes, it was a major shock, Cullors said on the Into America podcast. It was also a lot of like, oh wait, I did not see that coming. Contrary to what has been reported, much of the funding that came in was from individual donors. Sounds right to me. That was a lot of white guilt money, Cullors continued. There's a lot of white folks being like, we just got to put the money. Okay. The same people who are going to advocate for reparations to force people who don't want to pay are also taking white guilt money and using it to lead wealthy, lavish lives. Incredible. Now, if Cullors herself was receiving exorbitant salaries, that would appear in the 990s, the tax filings for the nonprofit, because, as they noted, anybody who makes more than $100,000, those are highly compensated individuals, and they get listed. But let me tell you how it works. I'm not going to accuse them of anything, but I've seen it in nonprofits. Here's what you do. You start a nonprofit, you start a corporation. You say, I take a small salary at the nonprofit, a humble $50,000 per year for the good work of insert cause. The nonprofit then raises millions of dollars. You then hire out your other LLC that employs you at $1 million a year salary. See how that works? For all we know, Patrisse Cullors privately, how does she afford all these homes? For all we know, it's possible. She is a private employee at companies that work with the nonprofit. It's really that simple, man. Look, we want to start some nonprofits for Timcast. We did, and we're going through filing, and it takes a long time. One is fact-checking, one is building infrastructure. We're getting them all sorted. We haven't, I don't believe, no one's taken any donations for them yet. We're waiting tax filing. I'm not going to take a salary from the nonprofit. I don't want to receive any money from it. And we are not, and we're going to have all our 990s, we are not highly compensating anyone. The only high compensation we might have to pay for is building the website out. When I look at these nonprofits, I throw up in my mouth a little bit. Millions of dollars, just buying all this crazy stuff and spending $100K on a live stream. We're never going to do that. The goal we have with the Truth in Media Foundation, Tim, someone, I didn't come up with that, someone else told me that. Truth in Media, TIM. We're going to hire fact checkers, and they're going to independently fact check our content and many others. And look, we could use it here at Timcast for sure. We do a good job, but we're not perfect. We miss. And so the idea is that will improve our accuracy, because the fact checkers will just basically, as an external organization, we will pay them to fact check our articles. So Timcast will actually pay them. That will cover salaries for the fact checkers. The nonprofit will also take in donations. We're not going to give anybody $1 million. We're not going to give anybody hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm fairly certain in our actual filing for it, we said no one's getting six figures. We're going to be hiring basic journalist jobs. They're going to get paid well, but their goal is going to be to do the work and do the fact checking. We'll never buy a mansion with it. If the nonprofit becomes large and starts receiving massive sums of money, we will create prizes to give to journalists. We will return that money to give it back to good journalism and probably policy around free speech and accuracy in media. That's why it's a foundation. The Black Lives Matter built a big studio, spent all this money, and they're awash with cash. Let me see. I think they have $42 million in assets. Yo! A part of me says, I get it, man. I don't know what they're supposed to do with all that money. And I'm not going to fault anybody for getting the money. Donald Trump, I'm sorry, not Trump, Steve Bannon, and this other guy, I'm sorry, I forget his name, were like, we're going to build the wall, we're going to privately fund it. And they raised like $1 million. The guy took a salary and they tried locking him up. I think they did lock him up. Trump pardoned, I think, Bannon. And my attitude is just like, do you think anybody who donated to build the wall cared that the dude was getting a salary? Of course not. It's the stupidest thing ever. You know, I'll be careful about a nonprofit and just say that everything I'm saying is subject to change. We haven't launched it, we haven't hired anybody, we have these goals, and we're just waiting on filing, which takes a long time. But this is how they get you. Dude said apparently with the build the wall thing that he wasn't going to take a salary. And then he had taken a salary, and like, you defrauded me. And it's kind of like, you can't change your mind. Like, what do? Do you, like, issue a press release or a memo saying anybody who wants a refund is entitled to one, but we got to pay this guy a salary? Nobody who donated cared. Nobody who donated to Black Lives Matter, okay, I'm speaking in generalities, not absolutes. The majority, overall, I'm sure there are some people who care, but most people who donate to everything they did don't care they did it. Most people who heard they had a party don't care. You know? Would you care if you donated to Donald Trump and he bought a filet mignon, medium well done with ketchup? Do you think, would you care? No. You'd be like, oh, okay, good for him. You know, I donate, I support him, I like what he does. This is why I don't like nonprofits. I don't like the idea of people living exorbitantly wealthy lives off of this notion that they're doing public services, because they're not. They tend to lie to make money. I believe Black Lives Matter is just another ideological organization that manipulates the public to receive donations. They ended up, because of the branding, receiving tens of millions of dollars from the general public and people who are guilty. White guilt, as Patrisse Cullors says. Good for them, I guess. You know, part of me says, I wish the world wasn't this way. Part of me says people can give money to who they want to give money to. And if story after story keeps coming out about how they had parties or bought crazy properties or spending insane amounts of money on live productions, and people keep donating, well, okay. I suppose it's our task then to highlight this, show you the pictures and say, here's what they're doing with your money. Multiple properties privately owned by Patrisse Cullors. Can she afford that? What does she do? Perhaps she has a good job. Perhaps there's... I don't know. It doesn't seem like she's getting a large salary from Black Lives Matter. Take a look at this in-ground. Ooh, brick surrounding it. Oh, wow. Beautiful. 6,500 square foot mansion. They built this set. What are they doing with it? Is there anything prominent? Yo, I'm going to tell you guys something. $42 million, they could buy, I think buying all of Times Square for one day is $3 million. I don't know why you would. It's not easy to coordinate because getting every ad agency, and you really couldn't do it because some of the ads are vinyl, like they're static ads that are made of vinyl. You can't just swap it out for a day. But what I mean to say is, they built this massive set. They have $42 million in assets. Why aren't they buying billboards? Why aren't they launching movies? Why aren't they making shows and buying airtime? What are they doing with all this money? We here at Timcast have substantially less money than that. But, well, I shouldn't say substantial less. We're doing really well, you know, thanks to all of you guys. And, you know, we're hiring people. We're trying to hire more people. We're trying to set up nonprofits. I do well for myself. We're also a private business. People who give money get something in return, but there is an element of a similarity between Timcast and Black Lives Matter in terms of donations, in terms of money received. A large portion of the people who give money to Timcast.com do it to support the mission and the work we do. I'd like to say that we are much more efficient with that money, and we're actually producing. Pop Culture Crisis is now live at 3 p.m. every day. Go to youtube.com/popculturecrisis to watch live. Another live show. When you super chat on Pop Culture Crisis, money guns fire money at the hosts. And we're gonna set up a thing kind of like the chicken party meter to make it rain. When the meter fills up, it'll make it rain and like lights will flash and it'll spray the hosts with money. Because we're trying to make entertainment, culture building entertainment. You know, Timcast IRL is much more serious, much more political and academic. Pop Culture Crisis is supposed to be more fun and silly. We're actively doing these things and we're hiring these people. It's, you know, I'm trying to do everything I can to utilize the funds for the the mission. I was talking to our good friend. It's a happy. And I was like, what can we do? And so we're talking about culture jamming as marketing, crazy ideas. I wish we had $42 million in assets. Yo! I'll also tell you this. I suppose I gotta keep the private, but I wouldn't use donations to buy a $6 million mansion in Los Angeles. One of the reasons we moved out to West Virginia because we wanted to be responsible with the money that we have. Property is substantially cheaper and larger. We want to create opportunity for those who have similar values to us on personal liberty, personal responsibility. West Virginia. I don't want to go to Austin. I don't want to go and funnel money into these big lefty centers. I want to bring economic prosperity to the regions where people are more likely to agree with live and let live and leave me alone. So we'll go here. We've got a lot going on behind the scenes. I don't know. Yeah, I wanted to talk about this because I kind of wanted to defend Black Lives Matter, to be completely honest, as much as I don't like them, and I wanted to point out, yo, this is what nonprofits do. This is what big business is. Everything they're doing. Name a nonprofit. So I can't look at them and say anything other than politics has fueled the wealthy lives of these people. Good for them, I suppose. Ain't nobody complaining, are they? Unless you're one of those people who did donate and you're upset this is what they did with your money, because maybe you would be. Maybe you would be. That's why I'm like, I much prefer the private business model for Timcast.com. You know, look, you become a member at Timcast, you are supporting us and the mission, but we're giving you something in exchange for it, so, you know, we pay tax and all that stuff. Unlike the nonprofit that doesn't, and then they use it for whatever. More scandals likely will arise as more information comes out. But I think the big story here for most people is if you don't like BLM, you're going to be mad about it. And I think if you're going to be honest, you're going to be like, welcome to the world of nonprofits. Nobody on the left really cares. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.
I never chose to become a gambling addict, but what I did choose was to get help from a professional counselor. Admitting I was powerless to solve my problem, that opened the doors. I thought I was beyond repair until I called 1-800-GAMBLER and was provided life-changing resources and referrals at zero cost to me.
For no-cost gambling addiction counseling, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text SUPPORT to 53342. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
Suckers. I'm out of here, dude. I hit the fucking road 7 times. Fuck. That fucking very long was breaking by.